What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. On today's episode, I'll be running you guys through the problems that I see, or the biggest problems that I see most fashion entrepreneurs and fashion designers are having in this digital day and age. Specifically, in 2022, we find ourselves in an interesting point in history. We have so many tools at our fingertips, and I feel like we've almost lost that ability to deal with the analog world. Well, what are these issues besides the analog world issue? We have key issues that I think every single fashion entrepreneur needs to overcome in order to set up a successful business, in order to create designs that they're passionate about and that can move people and ultimately create a foundation for their brand that can move them forward. Want to find out how to resolve these issues? Well, watch this episode and you'll find out. What's up, design family, and welcome to Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you here. On this channel, we discuss all things sports fashion, graphic design, manufacturing, and technology. We'll discuss key topics, answer pressing questions, and provide actionable steps on starting your own product line. If you're interested in any of the above topics, stick around. You're in for a good one. Getting right into the episode, number one is going to be a lack of hand sketching ability. We live in a digital day and age where we have so many digital tools at our fingertips, but I feel like a lot of designers and entrepreneurs have lost that analog ability, the ability to communicate their ideas using good old-fashioned pen and paper. There's no point in being the most creative fashion designer if you're unable to actually share your ideas in a visual way with the world. The way that we communicate as designers is visually. Being able to translate the thoughts in your head and put them in a concrete format is an essential step in the creation process. Why I love being able to hand sketch is not only being able to completely communicate, but it's also a form of brainstorming. Whereas most businesses and most colleges are focusing on the digital tools. Designers come out of college knowing how to draft 2D flats using Adobe Illustrator. This sort of creates a closed-end loop where you're unable to think outside of the digital realm because a lot of the tools that you're using to brainstorm ideas, to put together ideas, are locked into this digital box. When you bring in your ability to create automatically using pen and paper, you open up the field and you really begin to be able to express yourself. Well, your issue might be, I don't know how to sketch, so how do I even get into that field? And I understand, I've been in your shoes before. I'm not particularly talented at sketching, but by being smart and mitigating or arbitraging the digital tools that I have available to me, I personally sketch on an iPad Pro using Procreate, but I still hand sketch on that platform. So I'm not using pen and paper. I'm sort of finding the perfect middle ground. Why I love a software like Procreate and a hardware like the Apple Pen and Procreate in general. Being able to use certain functions like the streamline function on the Apple Pencil when I'm using Procreate allows me to make my lines a lot more consistent and smooth. It takes away that natural jitter that you get, especially when you're starting off and your pen strokes aren't as comfortable. At the same time, being able to bring in reference images, tone down the opacity, trace over them, allows me to get more confidence, to be able to match perspectives, to be able to bring accessories in quickly. Also, being able to duplicate, to add symmetry lines that allow me to pretty much create a mock-up in half the time. All of these are ways of enhancing my ability to just create more consistently. I cannot recommend implementing a iPad or a Wacom tablet into your workflow enough, but at its core, you need to become more proficient in communicating your ideas in visual ways. Number two is a lack of understanding of textiles and how they work. Look at a fashion design as a sort of cake. In a cake, you have multiple ingredients. You have the ingredient of the aesthetic design, you have an ingredient of the functionality, you have an ingredient of the construction, and ultimately you have an ingredient or one of the core ingredients, which is the textile used. This is the building block of any fashion piece. Most designers have little to no knowledge on textiles. And I get it, it's such a large and open space. Where do you start? Well, you start at the basics. You need to have a fundamental understanding of the different fiber families that are available, whether they're natural, synthetic, or semi-synthetic. And then you need to look at the construction techniques used to weave or to knit these different fibers together. That's at the core. Then from there, you can begin to build on your textile knowledge, but start a step at a time. Why is this so important? Well, I've seen so many different scenarios where designers create beautiful garments, and they create garments that are extremely complex and nuanced and layered, and they have different fabrics that they're supposed to be bringing into them. But ask them what type of fabric that they're using, what's the weight, what's the construction, what's the fiber type they're using. They have no idea. And believe me when I say these things have a huge impact in terms of the final outcome of your design. Don't take a textile understanding for granted. We've done a ton of videos in the past that I highly recommend you check out. We put a ton of playlists together that you can check. So check the channel and learn all about textiles and take the initiative to push your knowledge forward. Number 3 is a fundamental lack of understanding of product construction and finishing. Look at a fashion piece as a building. Just as we have the textile, which sort of formulates the materials that are used in the building. It's the steel, it's the metal, it's the wood. The finishing and the seam construction types are the way that these ingredients or these pieces are put together and how the building is finished and how it's polished. These are fundamental pieces that play into how your aesthetic design is going to be used and interacted with in the real world. You need to learn 2 key categories. You need to learn how seams are put together, the different types of seams, plain seams, felt seams, mock felt seams, lap seams, flat seams. There's so many different seam types at your disposal. And for us to go through them in this episode, honestly, you'll be here from today till next week. But just know that you need to do the investment to understand the different tools that are available to you. In this digital age, I think that as we move more and more deeper into the digital space, those who are deeply rooted with a sort of connection into the physical world are going to continue to enhance and to create their value moving forward. Let's face it, yes, we are going to have more use for digital things, but at the same time, as we move into that world, those who have an understanding of the physical realm that we live in are going to be able to create and are going to be able to produce the things that we need on a day-to-day basis. That was a tangent, but just understand that the finishing and the seam construction types are such a core part of every design, and it's something that you might overlook. It's something that you might not have thought of before. Just look at the t-shirt you're wearing or the pants that you're wearing. How are they finished at the hems? If they were finished in one way over the other, the entire feel of the garment would be completely different. Something like my suit jacket. The end is finished with a beautiful blind catch stitch that creates a seamless look to the garment. This is a mark of luxury versus something that's a bit more normal or mass market, like a turned up hem with a double needle stitch. These things, they have such a strong impact on the finished garment. Don't take this for granted. Do the work. Get involved, especially if fashion is something you're incredibly passionate about and you want to push your own practice and your own collection forward. Well guys, that is it. That is a wrap on this episode. Take these 3 key points with a grain of salt. Believe me when I say, as a fashion designer, I've definitely seen that we're lacking in these core traits as designers and especially as entrepreneurs if we want to stand out from the crowd. And if we want to continue to cultivate a way for ourselves in this digital age, it's going to be more of taking a step back into the physical world, of understanding how things are put together, of understanding the fundamental ways that the beautiful garments that we wear on a day-to-day basis that enhance our lives, that allow us to profess our individuality in the way that we feel, how they're put together. Don't take any of these pieces for granted. Guys, if you guys enjoyed this type of content, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. We put out great pieces on a week-to-week basis, and we'd love for you to be along for the ride. Also, if you have any questions on getting into the fashion space, or you're an entrepreneur looking to set up your own brand, you can hop on a one-on-one consultation call with me. Check the link in the description. Slots are limited, so make sure to act fast. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.